Hello, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? I am fine. I am doing this show for the people, sort of like Bobby's daughter, who doesn't really understand. They don't understand, really what gold is, or they're not getting they don't get the point of it. In other words, how are you going to use it at a restaurant? How are you going to use it at a grocery store? Okay. Well. We have gold at 2307. And I was worried because you can see it was down to 2270. Like I was checking it at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I was going, oh shit. And I had a feeling that we were going to see a big Friday. I told you that yesterday. And look, it's still for 27.26. So I'm watching the new Mark McGuire, and I'm about a quarter of the way through it. And I said, you know what? I got to do this for Bobby Bo's daughter and all the other daughters and wives and girlfriends who don't understand what gold is. Bobby Bo, for your daughter. So, as I listen to Bobby Bo trying to explain to his family, to his daughters, to his girlfriend, as I listen to Greg John, as Luke's still trying to grasp it, although I know he gets it, as all my students are trying to really understand it. And I'm tired of I want to answer the question for the people that go, and I get this at the pool, how are you going to use your gold at the grocery store? So let's answer that question. So to answer the question, we have to go back to the beginning. And we're going to go to the beginning right now.
I am the Teaserking.
Yes, I am.
Router MD Plumbing and Heating. 25% off all your
All right, so
problems.
we got to start at the beginning.
We are beginning to see that there is only one way this road is taking them, and it doesn't look nice. As interest rates go up, paying off debts becomes more expensive. Think about it. For every £100 a Brit pays in taxes, £10 is used to pay interest on what the country owes. That's a big chunk of money. It's really the best way to spend it. For the last few decades, as the West's debts kept growing, economists have told us not to worry. To battle the rising debt, they came up with this idea called modern monetary theory. Basically, it says that countries can borrow as much as they want because they can just print more money to pay it back. And that's kind of what the Bank of England, US Federal Reserve, and European Central Bank have been doing with something called quantitative easing. But in recent times, we are beginning to see that debt does matter. People who lend money to the government.
Okay, so why am I starting there? Well, you have to understand why you're buying the gold in the first place and why you're going to use the gold in the first place. So as we are talking, I was so excited I found my dollar. Okay, Bobby's daughter. How are you going to use gold at the grocery store or at the restaurant? Well, the real question that I told them to ask you, but we will go, and this is for everybody. How are you going to use this at the grocery store and at the restaurant and to pay your bills? Aha. That's the question that needs to be returned to the question of how do I use gold at the grocery store? And when I saw my buddy at the pool who recommended Serbia, he says, how am I going to use that at the grocery store? Just a dumb shit answer or question, right? And I answered, how are you going to use the dollar? Because you just heard that the MMTs, which are Keynesians, there's Keynesians, there's Austrians, there's nothing else. All this other bullshit, you're either Keynesian or Austrian. Most of them are Keynesians. And they're trying to, they know it doesn't work, but they keep trying to come up with different, Reaganomics means government should spend and make the decisions, or you're an Austrian, which is free market, or classical, Austrian or classical, which is free market, which we decide. The markets are free. The government's out of it. The trades are between me and the grocery store, me and Bobby, me and this, me and that. We don't have the government interference. We don't need it. We don't want it. Just let the free trade. Just have good laws and good money, sound money. So I've been teaching for the last 3 years about buying gold and silver. Oh, why should I buy it? It doesn't go up in price. Well, part of the reason is because this is going to zero. So the first thing everybody needs to understand is the system in place now, as you just heard, prints the money to pay the print, and they print, and they print. And guess what? The debt goes up and up and up. It's $35 trillion now, on its way to 40, but I think will collapse before it gets there. So you have $35 trillion in debt. You keep printing to pay off the interest, but the debt doesn't go away. And the more you print of something, the less it's worth. So we got our 50 count Mahomes card. Why is this valuable? Because there's only 50 of them. That's why it's valuable. The cards that are overproduced don't have a value. So that's the first thing to learn, is the more things are produced and printed, the less they're worth. Right now, on the M2 money supply, we have printed, as of January 2024, $20.781 trillion are in circulation. You think that has a value? 20 trillion? And some of these idiots will say, yeah, well, it was, we're getting it out of the system. Yeah, you went from 1 trillion to 21 trillion, and now you went from 21 trillion to 20 trillion 7. Yeah, big deduction. You still have $20 trillion out there just in the US. You also have another 130 trillion outside of the US. That's $150 trillion. What do you think the value is? So this is the problem, is you basically made the dollar worthless. Oh, how can a dollar be worthless? Well, Greece went bankrupt. They had a Keynesian in charge. I think they still do. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina, Germany is in big trouble. The euro's in big trouble. England's broke. Germany's broke. Zimbabwe broke. Zimbabwe was the only one smart enough to actually come out with a gold-backed system, a gold-backed currency, and now they're doing much, much better. Then to more prove my point, the Russians have 30,000 tons at 32,000 ounces a ton. The Chinese have 60,000 tons. India has, I don't know exactly. Let's say they have 10 to 20,000 tons. They use a lot of jewelry, though. They're using it for weddings and jewelry. So they're smart enough to realize you get married, you're given gold. So they're smart enough to realize that. So those are the big three. And then you got Saudi Arabia, who now wants to get paid oil. They want to sell their oil for gold, as do the Russians. Um, Africa's kicking France and the US out so they can mine their own gold. So everybody realizes what gold is. Gold is a very limited asset, and it's money. There's only 250,000 tons of gold in existence. You have to dig it out of the ground. You can't print it. So you can never have gold inflation like you have dollar inflation because they just keep printing and printing and printing. But you can't do that with gold. And I know there was one time, and this Bitcoin guy likes to lie about it, where there was inflation. It wasn't really inflation. It was with Spain. They had taken over Mexico and South America, and the Incas and the Aztecs, and there was a bunch of gold and silver there. So they just took it, which caused the value of it to go down a little bit temporarily, but now that's included in the thing. So it's not, you really can't inflate it. Yeah, if we find a bunch, supply will go up, which will make, but geez, wait, the supply went up and the value went down, but multiply that by 100, and that's the paper dollar, right? So you can see this has no value. This really has zero. And of the 1,000 currencies that have been here before, since the Romans, everyone that printed and didn't back it by gold went to zero. So it's not like, it's not like we're just guessing. No, everyone has because they print. They like to go to war. They need money to go to war. They print, they print, they print. I don't know what the U.S. is doing with a war with Russia. I think that's so Russia won't go to the gold standard, which is coming in May. Why we're with Israel now, I have no idea. Probably something to do with oil. It's always about money wars. Don't ever forget that. Russia's won the war by a mile in the Ukraine. So we're not going to stop Russia from coming out with a gold-backed currency since we sanctioned them and they can't use our money. And now we're going to steal 300 billion of their money. Well, what do you think? So they're going, I don't care. It's not worth anything. We're going to now replace everything with gold. So the dollar's going to zero, or it already is, but people don't realize it because people don't understand it, which is why I'm doing this video. Anytime you overprint something, it has no value, right? And so you ever go to a clothing store and they got a bunch of black shirts, and all of a sudden they're on sale for $9.99 because they can't, they want to sell them, so they know they got to come down to the price. And I don't want to get too much into free market now, but there is a price that you have, and there's a price you find out what the market will pay, and that's the price you got to sell it at. You want to sell it a little bit high. You got to sell it even. First, you got to find the shirt is $30, but if I put it on sale for $9.99 and I lower the price, I'll increase the demand because everybody will want it. And one other thing to go back to is how a business works. The business works is they figure out what the selling price is. What's the market willing to pay? Then what does it cost us to make whatever? And once they figure that out, then it's, do I go into business? So if things cost in the marketplace, if it's $20 and I can make it for 10, I'll make it for 10. Hold on just a second. I'm sorry. So I'm hearing this noise. I put hot water on for tea and I forgot about it. And I'm hearing this noise and okay. And then I look and I see, oh, by the way, if you fill up a pot with water and it boils and steam comes out, that's the water. So my full glass became a half a glass because it all evaporated. Pretty funny. So the way the economy works is there's businesses and they see if they can make money. And if something costs them something you can sell for 20 costs you 10, you go into business. If it costs you 25, you don't go into business. So that's the way business works. And then that's the way inflation, which they always lie to you about. Forget the 2% or 10. You can't measure it. Inflation is printing out the money. You printed 20 trillion, the dollar's worth less. Theoretically, it takes more dollars to buy something because you've hurt the value of the dollar. You've lowered the value. The dollar's now worth what you the $100 10 years ago versus the $100 today is not worth the same. So that's the first thing you got to realize. The second thing you got to realize is that the market dictates the prices. So you want to buy Fritos, you'll notice the pack at the grocery store is now $5 for 8 ounces or whatever of Fritos. And that's because it takes more money. The money's lost value. It takes more dollars to buy it. But here's the kicker. As I started this conversation by saying, you can only be in business if your costs are less than the selling price. But the problem is the market controls the selling price. So we say, no, I'm not going to pay $5 for Fritos. I'm going to pay $2. So what happens then is as the inflation happens, the Fritos cost goes up. It's really Pepsi. And now instead of it cost them $1 and they sell it for $2, it now costs them $5 and they sell it for $5. So they're breaking even, but the market doesn't like it. We're not paying $5. So what you'll see is buy one, get one free or something. So really it's $2.50 for the bag. And really it's hard for them to make money because they can't raise the selling price to cover their costs because the market says no. Okay. So we have that. That's how the economy works. Banks and Wall Street are just Ponzi schemes. They just print money out of thin air. They cause the inflation. They're the ones responsible for the $20 trillion and the 130 worldwide. But what happens is as they're printing, as they're printing the dollar out and the dollar's devaluing to nothing, and then somebody tells you, well, you need to buy gold. And you go, why? I can't. How am I going to use it at a restaurant or at Kroger's or whatever? And the point that you're missing is the dollar itself has no value. So you can't continue to use that. And that day is coming very soon. So if I can't use this, what can I use? So that's where we get into assets. We go into Bobby Bo's baseball cards. We go into Rolex watches. We go into gold jewelry. We go into, so it's assets. It's cards, it's jewelry, it's diamonds, it's anything that's an asset. It's Rolex watches and it's gold and silver. Now, the difference of gold and silver is actually money. So you don't need to trade it in. So if I've got the Bobby Bo card and it's worth $1,000 and I want to go eat, well, I can't take the card to the grocery store. So what I got to do is take the card and sell the card to get whatever the medium of exchange or money is. And then I take that to the grocery store. So everybody's got this misconception that how do I take gold to the grocery store and use it? Well, right now you can't. However, you would just sell it, get the money, and then go to the grocery store. However, what's happening in the BRICS countries is they're actually going to make a gold backed currency. So there'll be a gold line and it'll say this is $5 a gold. And then all the prices will come way down. Coffee will be 35 cents again. You want a Fritos, it'll be 15 cents for the big bag because this is real money if it's backed by gold. Then you go to the grocery store or the restaurant with your gold coin and you can use it. And they're going to have that money and you're going to take out a 1/4 ounce of gold, which right now is worth $6.50, and you're going to go buy groceries. But the thing is, all the groceries priced in gold, Coke will be a dime, and steak will be $1. All the prices will come down. So you're going to use silver as your tool to buy things, and everything will probably be priced in silver. So how do I use gold at the grocery store? It's coming where they'll have the gold backed currency. So that's the first part you have to understand is this has no value. You're not understanding that. How can I use gold? And I told the guy in the pool, how am I going to use this? Because I understand this has no value. This is going out. I can use it a little bit longer, then I'm not going to be able to use it. So gold will be the only thing I can use. All the central banks, Russia, China, and India, are buying gold. Well, not all the central banks. Not the London and the U.S. and the Canadians are too stupid because they're Keynesians to buy gold. So they're the only central banks not buying gold. Everybody else, China and India and Czech Republic and Hungary and Bulgaria, they're all buying gold. Tons of gold bars, putting it into the central bank. Why not Bitcoin? Why not dollars? Well, they're getting rid of the dollar. They're doing the same thing we're doing. So to protect ourselves, we're selling all our dollars to buy gold because this we know is at zero or going to zero, but it still can be used to buy gold, which is incredible. The guys at the stores, the gold stores, don't understand. And I tell them, I says, why are you selling me physical gold for paper gold prices? And they have no idea. I got to pay rent. So I'm going to sell it to you at the gold, at the paper price, which is what COMEX is. There is no physical price. Now, listening to Mark McGuire for 10 minutes, I'm going to play this one clip, which Bobby will be very happy to hear.
Do you think they care? At the end of the quarter, which was spot at
Okay, coming in a minute.
560. And it's risen since then, but we're just dealing with the first quarter. A physically driven $210 per ounce rally had been locked in by central bank buyers, hitting and slightly exceeding our first quarter gold projections of 2,200. Now we're going to look at a similar higher stair-step setup for the end of the second quarter in a sec.
Hey, Andrew, you had mentioned that you expected the Fed to be forced to fold its gold suppression hand. Can you expand on this, please?
Yes, Shane. Now, following losing control of the central bank-driven gold price...
All right, Luke and Bobby, listen up.
This will be the quarter where the Fed, a single outlying central bank still fighting the price rise in gold, has to fold its naked short gold hand. Has to. Central bank demand is simply too strong. And I'm talking about global central bank demand. It's simply too strong. And the Fed doesn't have the bullion to deliver into a wider global central bank sovereign race to swap their fast appreciation dollars for real bullion. And without enough COMEX speculator-held open interest, in other words, the chips in the casino,
to offset official short bets against gold, Basel III and SFR conditions enabling the conversion of synthetically priced COMEX gold have made it impossible for the Fed to continue to shoot itself in the foot. It doesn't.
Now, you're asking, why is gold so cheap? Gold's been cheap because of COMEX, which kept its price down. So you have this dollar that's worthless. You just heard Mark McGuire say COMEX can't do it anymore. There's too much demand by central banks. Why do they want gold? Because this is worthless. The value of this has dropped to zero. Everybody with a lot of dollars knows they're screwed. So they are dumping their dollars and buying gold, which is what we're doing. I'm liquidating everything I have and I'm buying gold and silver. Silver will go too. So now you hear Mark McGuire say that's it. There's too much demand for gold. Everybody's starting to realize the Titanic is sinking and they want to get off. And now we're getting near the frenzy that we've been waiting for. And that is why we're buying gold in the first place. So first of all, you're saying, how can I use gold at the grocery store? And the question is, what else are you going to use and how can you not be buying gold? If you hold on to the dollar, all you doubting Thomases, this has no value. It's zero. Everybody's leaving it. They're selling it for gold because you can't inflate gold. As I said, there's $20 trillion in the U.S. and $130 trillion outside the U.S. of dollars. This has no value. So therefore, without a value, what are you going to do? You have to dump it. And then let's look at our options, okay? And why we chose gold and silver. So your first option is Wall Street. I'll buy stock. Well, what are stocks? They're valued in dollars. Microsoft's financials, the balance sheet, they got $1 trillion. Well, wait, the dollar's going to zero. Is Microsoft smart enough to buy gold? No, because they don't understand it. Because in the US, it's all Keynesian except for us. And so therefore, what are they doing? They're going and saying, oh, well, no, the dollar's fine. We'll just print more of it. As I showed you in the beginning, MMT, modern monetized theory, which is a bunch of bullshit. Oh, well, if you have debt, you just keep printing money. And they don't understand the consequence. If you just keep printing money, the money goes to zero. They're missing the whole point. It's unbelievable. These are supposedly, this is the problem when you don't know what you're doing and somebody comes out and you just listen to them, you go, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but it sounds like they know what they're doing. And they don't, they have no idea either. So your first option, stocks, well, it gives a good return. Gold doesn't really return us any money. Stocks do. I can buy Apple or Amazon. Well, wait a minute, because they're in dollars. They're going to crash because all this money outside the U.S. is going to want to get out of the U.S. And that's a lot of what's supporting the stock market. So when they go and say, shit, I got to get out, and they sell, and they're going to want to buy gold too, because now they see what's happening and they see the price of gold, 2,300, as I showed you, and they see silver starting to move. And they're going, oh, shit, we need to get into gold and silver before it gets too high. So they start selling their U.S. crap dollar because they realize it's worthless. That's happening very soon, if not starting to. And when that happens, stock market drops, the housing market drops, because the foreigners have a lot, they had all this money and they put it in U.S. dollars for safety. Little did they know they were not putting it into safety. It's like trusting Hitler. Oh, shit. I don't think we should have trusted that guy, or Stalin. So you're trusting the wrong guy, and therefore everything, they got to get out of the they got to sell their US. So they were buying houses here, they were buying stocks here. So that's Wall Street. It's all stocks or real estate trusts, attack on Wall Street guy. I don't want any of that. It's all Ponzi scheme. When you had Madoff running the stock market, and he was the biggest crook in the world, well, second biggest crook, that shows you how corrupt Wall Street is. So you don't want to be in the stocks. They're all going to get killed. Real estate trusts, people aren't going to be able to pay their houses, and you're going to have 2008 all over again. If you bought a real estate trust now, you got to be out of your mind. Okay. Well, we can put our money in the bank. We can buy an annuity for 9% or some insurance, or we can just get a money market for 5%. Some guy at the bank, I was pulling my money out to buy gold, and he goes to me, well, I got a 9% annuity. And I go, yeah, but I'll still be in dollars. I'm trying to get out of the dollars. Now, I refer to that as the Titanic, the banking and anything to do with paper. The banks, Wall Street, any of that is paper. And so we've hit the iceberg, which is this MMT. Printing money is the iceberg. And so the value goes to zero. So the point we want to do is get off the Titanic. And that leaves us, the only thing that you can't print and screw around with is gold and silver. Now, they've been doing it on COMEX. JP Morgan and the boys in London have been keeping the price of gold down on purpose. And so you overlook gold. I'll buy, because they want you on the Titanic. So I'll buy stocks, I'll buy a house. Gold, it doesn't do anything. And I need to make 100% of my return in 2 minutes. I need to make the return. That's all. There's no patience in America anymore, except for with me. And so they're sitting there and keeping the price of gold and silver down on purpose. This is insane. We need free market economics, which is Austrian economics, where the government is laissez-faire, hands off. Leave me alone. We don't need your business. Get out of here. Just let it run naturally. Let the free market, supply and demand. If the supply's low and the demand's high, let the price go. So that led us to buying gold and silver as the only fair haven to go to. And we know the price has been suppressed, and it's frustrating to us because we know Mahomes is going to win the game, and they're losing, and we're frustrated going, okay, when are they going to go? And then they finally turn it on. And I think that's what's happening here is we're sitting there and we're in gold for the safe haven. We know it's worth a lot more than it is. We know that the dollar's going out. So we're really buying gold and silver for that reason. So you ask, how can I use it at the grocery store? And I go, what is your alternative? You're going to use a Rolex? You're going to use a Bobby Bo baseball card? Or you're going to use your gold jewelry? What are you going to use? You're not going to use this at the grocery store much longer. This is called a medium of exchange. This is what everybody wants. So then we go and people, well, how about Bitcoin? And I go, what's Bitcoin? Well, it's a computer-generated nothing that is Ponzi scheme, that it only goes up if somebody buys, otherwise it goes down. It's limited, which I don't call limited, 21 million coin or whatever. It's not even coins, so it's 21 million computer bytes or whatever, which I don't call, that's not limited. Gold's 250,000 tons. That's a lot more limited than 21 million Bitcoins. But gold, there's a huge demand for, and the central banks are buying gold. Nobody's buying Bitcoin. I don't consider what Larry Fink's doing. He's the Pied Piper trying to screw everybody by having them buy the Bitcoin. So it goes up and then he sells and then he gets rich and everybody else gets poor. But so the Bitcoin option or the digital option is worthless because it's not real. all this digital crap. You had digital apes and you had digital paintings and Tom Brady with digital cards. If you can't hold the card in your hand, I don't want a digital. I want to hold it. I want to have it like a painting. I want the painting. I don't want it to be a digital painting where I can't. I don't want it to be where I can't hold it because I can't trust it. Like an ETF, there's 1,000 ounces of gold to each ETF. There's one for 1,000 people or 10,000 people. So 10,000 people buy an ETF thinking they word it so you think it's physical, but it's not. So they word it as physical. It's not physical. You'll never get it. And the price is going to go out because it's priced in dollars and it's a Ponzi scheme. So you're sitting there in an ETF thinking, I got gold. You don't have gold. The only way you have gold is if you have gold, if it's in your hand. That's why I don't trust anything digital because I don't have it. And then all of a sudden, Ben Friedman or whoever goes and it doesn't work. Or the crypto queen says, oh, you know what? OneCoin really doesn't exist. It's just a scam, not real money. And that's what I worry about. Is Bitcoin real? I honestly don't think it is. Because it's beautiful because you can't see it. It's a ledger, the blockchain's a ledger. Geez, I'm in accounting and finance. Okay. A general ledger is not anything new. It just records the transaction. So everybody sits there with the blockchain technology. Like, who gives a shit? Somebody's got to go in and do the transactions. I don't trust that at all. I don't, because anybody could go in and fake it and then switch 100 Bitcoins around. Don't kid yourself. I'm sure that's happening, but it's digital, so you don't have it. So I don't want something I can't have. That's why I am not in favor of anything digital. So Bitcoin's not an option, and all the digital currencies aren't an option because there's too many scams going on with them. They're not real, which leaves you to gold and silver as your only option to get out of the dollar and buy gold and silver. All the central banks are doing it. Putin's doing it. China's doing it. Must be a good idea if all those guys are doing it. The next best thing is there wouldn't be any wars because you can only have as many dollars as you have gold. This is the beauty of the gold standard. With the gold standard, let's say it's 10,000 an ounce, you can make so many dollars, and the dollars have to be redeemable for gold. So as much as you have is as much dollars as you can print. So you can't have a war because the war costs all this extra money, which you can't print because you don't have it unless you come out with a new currency. But who's going to trust it? Now, the one thing Egon warns us about with the gold-backed currency is setting a price as opposed to letting it be free market. And I agree with that. I want free market gold. I don't want, but I do agree that you can't just have the currency without any backing at all. So somehow you need a gold-backed currency with a free market of gold. And I don't know how you do that. I need to think about it a little bit more. So the idea is all the currency is gold backed. That way you can't print it. But we want the gold to be free market and go where it needs to go. So if it's 50,000 and it goes to 70,000, that's fine. Eventually, the dollar, hey, Greg and John, the dollar is, I'm doing this for Bobby's daughter. The dollar will go out. Well, what is that? It's a medium of exchange. What's that? It's what everybody wants. That's why Bitcoin is not money, right? So to be money, it has to be a medium of exchange, which means everybody wants it. So when you go to work, they pay you in medium of exchange. And then you go to the grocery store or the restaurant, pay your rent with the medium of exchange. So it's got to be, back and it's got to be able to be you, and then everybody wants it. Well, nobody wants Bitcoin because nobody knows the value. Nobody knows if it's even real or not. Wait, a earthquake, tremor. Oh, that's cool. All right. Where are you? You're in Alabama? No, Florida? I know somebody had it, but it's probably Putin. Probably just warming up the nukes. So you have the medium of exchange. So eventually, you're okay. You're in Connecticut. So that's probably Biden did something. So your medium of exchange has to be accepted. So as the dollar goes out, what's going to replace it? Well, this gold-backed currency that the BRICS are doing is going to replace it for all the BRICS countries. Can we use it? It would be nice if we could use the BRICS gold-backed currency also, which I don't know. They're using the US dollar, so why can't we use the BRICS gold-backed currency, right? Would be easier, but it's got to be something accepted and something that can't be printed to death, which is what you've done with the dollar. And it's amazing how the Keynesians don't understand the simple philosophy of the dollar being, we'll just print it. They have no concept that if you keep printing it, it has no value. Yet it's the medium of exchange. So they're screwing up the whole economy by screwing up the medium of exchange. So what should happen is it'll be replaced with a gold-backed currency. And the fear is we don't have gold. Well, we better get some, or we just use the gold-backed currency that BRICS is going to come out with. Either way, the price of gold will go through the roof. And that's the idea. Let's check our gold price now. Ooh, silver, 27.35. Gold, $23.22, up $34. Here we go, 23.22 and 27.35. And I'm going to go buy some gold. The guy will go, "Oh, it went up," and I'm going, "Well, yeah, whatever. I'll buy another, at least a quarter or a half ounce." And the thing is, so the half ounce is 11.50, went up maybe to 12.10. So let's say it goes up to 12.50. Who cares? For the extra $50, I'd happily spend it because I know gold's going to go up to at least 20,000. So the question is going to be, how's Russia and BRICS going to handle the gold-backed currency? Are they going to leave it at free market? And COMEX is just busted. So as COMEX was keeping it down at 1,600, COMEX is busted. So I have Luke and Bobby going, well, it's going to correct. It's going to correct. It's going to correct. And I'm sitting there going, it shouldn't correct logically because nobody's selling it to correct it. So what happens in the stocks, you got, let's say, Coca-Cola, and it's a $60 stock, and it goes up to 65. And you go, I'm going to profit take. So you sell it. And then you go into Pepsi or you wait and go back into Coke or something. I used to do that with CompuWare when it was Y2K. So I'd buy at 40, and then when it hit 50, I sold. And then it would go back to 40. And when it went back to 40, I bought. And when it back to 50, I sold. I did that for 20 times. It was beautiful. I had a friend at one of the VPs at Hiram Walker, my liquor company. And I told him about it. And then I'd go into his office and I go, it's at 50, sell. And then a couple of days later, I go, it's at 40, we need to buy it. And he'd just buy, sell, he just listened. Yeah, okay. And then it would go to 50. And then I'd go sell. And it was like, it was the coolest thing. It was just like clockwork. It would just go and then it would come and that was it. So keep that in mind. So there's really no reason. 2323. It's a nice round number. It's like 1313 Mockingbird Lane. So gold 27.42 for silver. So the point of the exercise is now gold's going to go up in value. And because it's been price fixed. So another reason to buy gold and silver. So it's probably the medium of exchange with BRICS, which is going to knock the price way up. The demand's going to go way up because as people figure out the Titanic sinking and these MMT guys are printing to pay the debt and you can't, then this goes to zero. This has no value. Things have no value when nobody wants them. So that's really what's happening. Nobody wants the dollar. They're all getting out of the dollar like we are. We're dumping the dollar for gold and silver. The central banks are dumping the dollar for gold and silver. The Russians are going to come out with a gold-backed currency because you can't print it. See, that's why it's been around for 5,000 years. It's really an asset that they've made money because they can't print it, and it's pretty, and everybody wants it. Everybody loves gold. It's such a pretty thing. So that's the real reason it's been money for 5,000 years is you can't print it. It just, whatever you can find out of the ground is what you get. A couple thousand ounces a year, which is nothing with all the demand. And that's it. So in concise, the U.S. government prints $1 trillion for the debt every quarter, plus all the other bullshit they print. So this is going out relatively quickly. The more people realize the dollar's worthless, the more, and they dump it for gold and silver. A, gold and silver go way up. B, the dollar nobody wants goes to zero. If nobody wants it, it has no value. So if I try to sell my Mahomes card and nobody wants to make me an offer, it's worthless. Even though it's a 50 count Mahomes, if nobody wants it, it doesn't have a value. It only has a value if somebody will buy what I'm selling. So back to the question, well, I can't take gold to the grocery store. How do I buy at the grocery store? And the answer is, what good's the dollar going to do you? You're getting out of the dollar because it's worthless, right? Basically. And I know you go, well, we've had the dollar from my whole life. And what do you mean? How can it be worthless? Because if you print it as they're doing, this is the problem. The people in charge don't understand either. So they don't understand, well, wait, if I keep printing it, it'll have no value. They don't understand that either. They think they can just keep printing and printing and printing. They're missing the point. And as Mark McGuire told us, COMEX is gone because they don't have any gold, and you must settle the tier one. And the central banks are now eating it up for the May 14th conference in Russia, where their BRICS are going to announce gold-backed currency. They got the green light. So this is what you have. So why do I want gold? A, because the price will go up. B, you can't print it, so it can never go to zero. And C, you can't stay in the dollar, because if you stay in the dollar, you have nothing. It's worthless. Nobody wants it. Will it still be here? It'll probably hang on in the U.S., but anything that gets imported from China is going to go from $10 to $1,000. However, gold will keep its value. So as gold keeps going up, that it's really maintaining the pricing. So if China raises prices on things, but again, they won't be able to. So quickly in Romania, I'm there and we go to the nice restaurant and it's 140 RON, which is 4-to-1. So when you divide it, it was like a $40 meal. And I go to the manager, how can you sell? This is great food. How do you sell it this cheap? He says, because I can't raise the price. People here can't afford it. So I can only sell what they can afford. What you wonder, how can he get this stuff? Because he must lose money on it, right? So probably mafia, right? So when you think about it like that, can the Chinese raise the price? This is why this inflation is all bullshit, because they can't raise the prices because the market, us, won't let them in a Austrian economic world. You cannot raise the price. You can only sell things. I can only sell Canadian Club for what, if I have a buyer. If I have no buyer, it's worthless. So I can't make this $1,000 a bottle if I get no buyers. So I got to sell it at a point where I get a buyer. I've got to figure out where the market is and sell it at the market. So if you raise your price, but the market's down here, you're not going to sell it. Example, Toyota, they came out as the inflation hits, they raised the price of the Camry to $35,000. I go in there for my oil change. I talk to the sales manager and the finance manager, and they go, I can't sell any. And I go, because you're over market. Your market's 25 grand. You're trying to sell for 35. You can't do it. It's impossible to sell it for 35 if nobody will pay 35, and we will pay 25. I bought mine for 25 in 2018, paid it off. Now it's going for 35, and then they can't sell it, so they lowered the price to 29, and maybe they can sell a few, right? Still, you're looking at $1,000 a month payment. Who has that? Nobody has $1,000 a month for a car. That's why houses are in trouble and cars are in trouble, because a car with all the high interest rate, because of the money printing, raises the interest rates. You can't do it. So I'm just keeping this brief because I want the people that don't know, I don't want to get too far over their heads. So I'm going to end it here. I'll be back after swim with a longer look at Mark Guire. But basically, when you ask, I can't sell gold, how am I going to spend gold at the grocery store or at the restaurant? You've got to think, I'll use a quote from one of the movies, you got to think fifth dimensional. And in fifth dimensional, you've got to realize gold price is going to the moon because they're printing the dollar to zero. So you got to understand what's going on. They're printing and printing and printing, and they don't realize you can't. Makes the value of the dollar go to zero. All the banks are buying gold and getting rid of the dollar, so it'll have no value. So now you're going to go to the grocery store with the dollar that has no value or lost a tremendous amount, and then gold. What you'll do is either there'll be gold-backed currency or there'll be a new currency, and if you need to, you sell like a quarter ounce of gold for, so you can go and pay your bills. But the dollar will go out. Look at Venezuela, look at Greece, look at all these countries that have, are broke. Things are very expensive there, and they don't know to go to gold. So it's just amazing how stupid the Keynesians are. But that's what's happening. So when asked, how do you use gold at the grocery store, at the restaurant? Your answer is, how do I use paper? It doesn't have a value anymore. So the goal is to get off the Titanic, which is paper, which is Wall Street, which are the banks. You don't want money in the banks. They're going to be worthless. You want to switch your money into assets that are not depreciating. And the best one's gold and silver. That's why we talk about it. That's how it's made. Rolexes are nice, but you still got to move the Rolex into money. But that's okay. But how many Rolexes are you going to buy? You can buy Mahomes cards. These are an asset. They'll be fine. Jewelry. But I would prefer gold coins because these are not 100% gold. So you do lose value on them when you trade them in. But I think you're better off with gold coins, silver coins. You just put them in a safe and that's it. Maybe you rent someplace. Like a U-Haul locker or something, or one of those safety things, and you put your gold and silver in there, and then you at least feel safe. That's it. But I don't insure it. There's no reason to insure it. I'm going to go buy more, but I'm not going to. I got it in a nice, safe place. I think so. And that's it. So uh, that's what we're trying to do. So you're into gold and silver because you got to get out of the dollar. So you're basically holding something, that isn't worth anything, and you got to get rid of it. But they're letting you get rid of it. And with COMEX keeping the price down, which is very nice of them, you will be able to get rid of your bullshit dollars for real gold, which is what we've been doing. So anyway, that's what's happening. So understand that. So next time you ask how you going to spend gold at the restaurant, that's your answer. You won't be able to. And we're a few months from that happening, but you can see now, 23.26 gold up $37, and silver at 27.37. So I would recommend buying as much silver as you can now, and getting some gold, even if you need quarter ounces, half ounces. You don't need to buy the ounce, quarter, half, a tenth of an ounce. Just buy gold, because you buy a quarter ounce and it goes up from 2,000 to 10,000. You spent 600 on it, and now it's 10,000. You got 2,500 for it. So it doesn't have to be an ounce. If you can get ounces, it's the best pricing, but it doesn't have to be. So I am going to go buy some gold and or silver, and then I'm going swimming, and then I'll be back in the afternoon to present more. All right. So now I hope everybody understands it, and I hope everybody now understands how to explain it to these people who are non-gold people, who don't understand this is worthless, going to zero or at zero already, and they just bury their head in the sand, not understanding that it's worthless. But they can't comprehend that. This is the problem. People can't comprehend this has no value. They'll, no, it's fine. We're fine. We're the dollar. We're the world's reserve currency. Big deal. If you print it to nothing, it's nothing, and it won't be for long. So that's the answer. Like, how can you pay for dinner with gold? I pay for dinner with silver at the barbecue place when I want to. He would take it, but I don't want to give it up at such a cheap price. Anyway, that's what's going on. So that's your lesson today. Understand it. www.teaserking.com. It's my site. It's a football site. I pick football games, and because I have my master's in economics, I also see what's going on in the world. Going, people don't have a clue. They're all going to get screwed. So I'm trying to help people from getting screwed. All right. Have a nice day. I will see you in a few hours, and take care, and go buy gold and silver. You can't wait anymore. You've got to go and empty everything, all that you can, and buy it, because you'll never see 2,000 again, and you'll never see $25 silver again. All right. Take care, everybody.